All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you very much, as always, for watching, for listening, for following, for subscribing. If you're listening to this, you could probably hear some noise in the background. We are actually live here tonight on a Thursday night at Imperial Pizza, Abbott Road in South Buffalo. And I'm excited for this one because I am joined by a very special guest. First time. Actually, I never met you until 45 minutes ago. And now we're here.
Now.
Briana Aldridge, sports anchor, reporter for WKBW-TV Buffalo is with me. How you doing, Briana?
I'm doing good. It's not too cold. You fed me, so it's a good start.
I was a little bit worried about that. We got sweaters just in case. The weather's kind of like here. And again, we're live. We're in South Buffalo. We're outside, by the way. Yeah. If you're only listening to this, we're on the patio. It's all right. It's not like hot, but it's not like too cold either.
Yeah, I think it's gonna get breezy in about an hour, but so we should be okay.
We'll be done by that point. Yeah, we're here at Imperial. We're gonna spend some time today getting to know you a little better, your life, your career to this point. You've been in Buffalo for a while now, and I've never had the opportunity to talk to you about some of these things. Although I will say, because again, this is our first time meeting and discussing, I was talking to you over some wings, which by the way, were really good.
Delicious.
And I found out you're pizza gal. So I'm going to make sure after the show that you get a couple slices of Imperial Pizza to take home with you. Because
I appreciate that.
It is the bomb, man. The wings are pretty good, man, too here. But anyway, I almost felt like it was like a podcast before a podcast. Like I felt like I was asking you so many questions.
Hey,
over dinner
it's the first time we met, right? But I got answers. All your questions, I got answers. So we're good.
I want to before we kind of dig into your upbringing and what ultimately got you here to Buffalo. One thing about you for people who don't know is not for being young. Like you're not that young, but you're certainly not old.
Thank you. I was like, where's this going?
Certainly not old, but you are incredibly well-traveled already throughout your life between where you're born, where you went to school, and some of the markets that you've been in already. You're from California, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. Yes. You've been in Georgia.
Yep.
You've been in West Virginia.
Yep.
You've been in Louisiana. You've been in Colorado, and now you live and work here in Buffalo, New York. That to me, that's pretty fascinating. I've always been fascinated by people who have traveled, who've been around, because I feel like other parts of the country are just, there's always similarities. And I'm sure some of the places between Buffalo and say Colorado or Buffalo, wherever, you'll see some similarities, but you'll also see a lot of differences. Just before we get into, like I said, your life and your career, just talk about these places, living in so many places and just experiencing so much different culture, you know what I mean? In different parts of the country.
I know for me, going away to college, just getting out of California, just seeing something different was a priority. And I thought Atlanta was perfect. They had a great volleyball program. And that's what I ended up signing and getting a scholarship to go play in Atlanta. But that was probably the biggest culture shock. One, I'm away from home, right, for the first time. And then Atlanta from California is so different. And then I was awakened for another culture shock when I went to West Virginia. But I think after that, anything you threw at me from that point was going to be okay. Because West Virginia is I would say is the least diverse place I've ever lived. The food is not touching Buffalo type of food. The biggest restaurant was probably Texas Roadhouse in that town that I lived in. Yeah. So we had Applebee's and Buffalo Wild Wings. When we got a Starbucks, I'm not kidding, the line was so big that police had to come and traffic it because that town never had a Starbucks before.
Really?
That's how small.
Wow.
Popeye, same thing. Crazy day.
Buffalo is relatively new to Chick-fil-A. And I remember when Chick-fil-A first opened in Buffalo.
It's here.
for all the the great places to eat in Buffalo. When Chick-fil-A came here, there were like lines around the block and stuff to
they know
get
me
in.
Well there.
Yeah, let's talk actually California. I mean, California is a long way away from here in Buffalo, New York. You were born in Northern California. Exactly where and kind of what were some of the things when you were young that you enjoyed doing as a kid before we start to get into some, both educational and also some broadcasting stuff. But like, what did you do as a kid growing up?
So I was born in Hayward, California, which is probably, I would say, 25 minutes from Oakland. Once I got to 4th grade, we moved to Tracy, California, which is probably the biggest city, I would say, probably to us that people know is Sacramento, which is probably like an hour away.
Okay.
So kind of in the Central Valley, not a lot going on. This isn't the palm trees, California that people think.
No,
not at all. But honestly, growing up, I was always in something. So I didn't, like, my family didn't travel a lot because we were always at like one of my tournaments for softball. And then when I wasn't playing softball for my travel team, I was basketball for high school. I was volleyball for high school. So I played 3 sports in high school.
Wow.
And I kind of always have been on a travel team. So there wasn't a lot of like family trips and time for like extra activities, if that makes sense.
What got you into softball? And if you're playing travel ball, that means you could play.
Yeah. Well, I would like to think so, but I've been playing since I was 5. And then my dad had went to Lynn University, played baseball. My mom played softball in high school. My parents met in high school.
Oh,
so
really?
They both played, and I think it just kind of naturally came to me, to be honest. And yeah, once you start playing at 5 and you're good and you like it, you just kind of keep it going. I didn't start playing the other sports till I got to high school. It was always softball
Just
for me.
softball?
Yeah, just softball.
What growing up, like what sports teams were you a fan of? What sports did you like watching too?
So growing up, I think the first game of anything I ever went to was a San Francisco Giants game. I loved Barry Bonds because he at the time was just a little controversial now, but at the time he was just, carrying the team. It was so cool we got free tickets, I think my grandmother's work always gave free tickets. And then Raiders game was my first football game that I went to as a kid. And I remember it raining so hard. And I was like, Dad, I never want to come out here again. Because I was probably like 7 years old, drenched, and it was not a good time. And then the Warriors, not the Warriors that everyone knows now. This was the Warriors that were not good at the time. But when they were still in Oakland, and yeah, those were my teams. I would say Warriors and Raiders, and then for baseball was the only San Francisco team.
When you first started, thinking about, even maybe at a young age, maybe not at a young age, but like what you would do with your life when you become an adult, like the path that people take to get to say where you are today, it's a road that's traveled many different ways in many different places. Like just with being a sports reporter, whether it's print, television, radio, whatever it may be.
Right.
I've interviewed people on this show, and it varies like when they know what they want to do. Like for an example, Joe Biscaglia as a young kid, he was already keeping written spreadsheets and databases and stuff. Yeah, he knew. Yeah. He knew when he was in grammar school. He knew what he was going to grow up and do. Somebody like Matt Perino, who is, went on to enjoy great success now here in Buffalo. Yep. He didn't know what he wanted to do. In fact, things didn't work out for him initially, even when he went to college. Yeah. And then he went back, and now he's doing what he's doing today, covering the Buffalo Bills. For you, when it comes to this, and there's a lot of layers too, by the way, Briana, because if you think she is only just somebody who works at Channel 7, you're nuts. And we're going to talk about some of that in a bit. Right. But let's, for now, like on the sports broadcast and the sports media part of this, like when did you first start to get an inkling that this might be something that when the adult version of Briana comes, that this is what you're going to do?
I would definitely say I got to college and I thought I was going to be a sports agent. So I always knew I was going to be in the sports realm of something. I thought the business side of it was going to be for me. Went there, didn't love accounting. That wasn't for me. So no joke, got through accounting 1, right? And I was like, whoo, it's done. Math is done, right? No, they said there's accounting 2. I was like, oh my gosh, there's more to this. And I had transferred late. I kind of felt like I was the older girl on the team because I had ACL reconstruction. So I was already behind a year in my eyes. So I literally went and asked them like, okay, what track, where am I at? Like, how can I get on here on time? And it happened to swear into the mass media department. And it was kind of, had the mindset, just get a degree. That's what my parents were telling me, just get a degree. no one does what they actually have the degree for, is what I heard about that time. I was like, okay. But I ended up taking a broadcasting class, intro to broadcasting with, his name was DeMarco Morgan. He was the 11 Alive anchor at the time. So I used to see him on TV, and then he would come into the classroom. And I think that was the game changer for me, was having that influence of someone who was, you know, if you want to do this, you will be fine. You will be fine. My parents didn't, they went to college, but they didn't finish. So I'm the first generation
that's
graduate.
awesome.
So I didn't really have anything to like connect to, if that makes sense. But I definitely give him a lot of credit every time, because he really like gave me something to look forward to.
When you were growing up and you're in high school and you're getting ready to go to college, were you open to staying where you were to go to school, or was it made up in your mind that you want to go somewhere far away? And there's no right or wrong. You know what I mean? There's no right or wrong. There's always different reasons. People I know that have the best relationship ever with their parents want to get away because they want to be independent. They want to go for various reasons to a different school. But you kind of had it in your mind made that like you ain't going to school in California for college.
Yeah, love, super close with my mom. Probably talk to her twice a day, but I've always been independent. Like as soon as I turned 15 and a half, I got my first job just because I wanted to make my own money and make my own way. That's always how I've been. And I had so many friends that were staying close or going to like LA schools. A lot of people went down south, but that's only 6 hours away. I wanted something different. When else am I going to do it? So for some reason, HBCUs were just a lot that I was looking at. I think there was one in New Orleans I looked at a little bit. I really liked Howard, but Clark was the one offering me a volleyball scholarship to go play, and they had just won the entire thing the year before. So
you just said a volleyball scholarship, and you also didn't really start playing volleyball
high school
until high school.
Yeah.
Talking to an athlete here.
Yeah, I think that's how it happens for us. I played, like I told you, my parents invested in softball. But I played every position as a freshman. And then I ended up getting to varsity my sophomore year. Was so upset because I was ready to be like this all-star on JV, right? And just rip through everyone. But I had a coach who played for Hawaii University, her and her sister. They're these huge D1 athletes, and they just grinded me out my sophomore year. Didn't play a lot, but junior year I was a starting libero, and that is what created me to get the scholarship, essentially.
That is awesome. What's the adjustment like for somebody going? I don't care where you're from. No matter if you're California, New York, doesn't matter. But growing up and then going to college, and in your case, going to school so far away, like that's probably that is your first taste of like culture shock to an extent, just going somewhere completely different. How big of an adjustment was that for you going to school?
Going to school was hard. I think I did what a lot of college students do in the beginning. I was like crying on the phone. I want to come back.
Yeah.
But
did you ever come close?
No, I don't think so. My parents came and got me situated. They sent my car my second semester so I could. It's hard when you don't know where you're at. You have no car and things like that. But it was hard. The first semester was very hard for me. Grades wise wasn't awesome. Like I didn't fail any classes, but I was hanging on by like B's, and I never got B's in high school. But it was a big adjustment, but I had to like overcome it. And then I started, going out and meeting people, going out with my teammates instead of just being locked in my room with my books like I did the first semester.
Things probably got a lot more fun though too. You know what I mean?
Yes, Atlanta's a great town. And we're actually connected to two other universities. So it's Clark, and then it's Morehouse and Spelman. And we all share like one big library. So we used to call it Club Woody because you can't get anything done in the library because there's so many people in there.
We were talking over our wings here at Imperial about internships.
Yes.
Now you've been at a lot of markets now, and we're gonna cover some of them at least anyway. But internships, you only had the opportunity. You had one, correct?
One.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I teach part-time, and I always tell my students when they're like, "What do I do?" I was like, "Get an internship." Because that's how you get your experience. That's where I learned a lot of my hands-on, right? I got one at WSB my senior year, and that's because I played two sports, so I didn't have that time to commit to an internship. They're normally they're after school. And I got one. I made $7.25 an hour running scripts and doing my packages that probably took me like 2 weeks to do at the time. But that's how I got my foot in. But it was a news internship. They didn't offer sports that semester. So that's kind of the only drawback from it. But I wasn't in the position to be picky. So.
Yeah. Well, and also let's say this too. This is a good time to say this. So Bills fans will know you, you know, Sabres fans will know you, sports fans will know you here in this market. But what some people don't know about you is the teaching. You're an educator as well. So before anything else, before we get into like going to Channel 7 or anyhow, how that opportunity came about, let's talk about that.
The teaching.
What got you wanting to do that? You know what I mean? You're an athlete, you're growing up, you're going to school. This is, you know, the career that you're in right now. What got you into wanting to become an educator?
I think going back to who I mentioned, DeMarco Morgan, he really influenced me, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I kind of wanted to do that for somebody else. And so I decided for me, after I got my master's, getting my PhD was the best way to go back to maybe one day at HBCU and be able to give students the best quality of me, if you will. But I love the mentorship about it. And I think that's what it's all about at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Is to be able to set other people up. And I think maybe being the oldest of 4 boys gives me that kind of, I always felt like, you know, in charge, if you will. I'm kind of, those are my baby cubs, if you know, like I kind of lead the way. So I don't know. I just like giving back, and teaching is fun. And the students are maybe, I don't know, 10 years younger than me. So it's fun. It's fun.
And by the way, your education, which Atlanta itself, that would be impressive enough, but not limited to that as well. You've also went to Nebraska.
Yep.
That's God. And I was reading your profile. Liberty
University. Yep. That's PhD right now, which I hope to finish. Hopefully this year will be wrapped up, and I won't have any more school. For me, anyways.
All right. So after school, in the professional sports media job market, your first stop was it West Virginia?
Parkersburg, West Virginia. Yep. That was my very first station. I was there for about 2.5 years, which ironically has been my longest stop out of all the stations I've been at. I just really needed to get my feet wet. And I was hired as a reporter. Small markets, people leave very fast. So they offered me a morning anchor position after 7 months of being in the business. So I took it, like, anchoring, you know, that quick. And so that's how I ended up re-signing and staying there a little bit longer.
Let me ask you this too, because you're very polished now, you know what I mean? You've been doing this for a while, but when you first start in this business, like how long did it take you? What was the period like where it took you to get comfortable being in front of the camera, you know, talking in front of the camera? That's a process. Like, you're a really good softball player pretty early on. You know what I mean? You're playing ball early on. You're a good enough volleyball player that you go to college, you play volleyball. Maybe it wasn't quite as natural to just get in front of a camera, or maybe it was for you to kind of like hone your craft a little bit. Like I would imagine working in West Virginia a little bit, if nothing else, also helped you hone your craft, gain more confidence in yourself, some reps.
Yeah, I'll definitely say, I tell my students, no one's good when they first start. No one's good. If any reporter says they were good when they started. Yeah. But I have some cringe stuff that I'm like, ooh, was that me? And that was me. Going live, that was hard, because in school you get to do 100 takes and you have this perfect package, right? Going live was hard, but I think what made me better was anchoring, because I had to write. And a lot of people don't understand, it's how you write that can make your life a little bit easier, when it's more concise and to the point, and not trying to write these long sentences and then be out of breath on live television at 5:30 in the morning at the time. So yeah, really? I think that's what made me better, was an anchor, because I had to become a better writer fast.
And then you go to Lafayette, Louisiana, that market, correct?
Yep, that was.
Let me make sure I got this right chronologically.
Yep, that's the map. Yep, Lafayette.
What was that experience like for you? I can only imagine. You know, I've never been to Louisiana. I've driven through West Virginia, but I've never spent no real time there. But I would imagine that life's a lot different in Louisiana than it is in West Virginia.
Everything is different, from the food to the people to the, you know, the culture. The food is very seasoned. I think that's when I learned how to really cook, was in Louisiana.
First motorcycle live here on the show, by the way.
I drowned us out there. But I would definitely notice the high school everything in Louisiana is so. I know you from Florida understand the difference. Like, most of the guys I covered in Louisiana went D1 and then go pro. Like that's the way of life there. So totally different vibes there. And then the food was great, and then definitely more diverse than coming from West Virginia. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. I was in a location. I was 2 hours from New Orleans, so often went there, just driving there 1 hour from Baton Rouge and 3 hours from Houston. So it was a good spot to be.
I've never been in New Orleans.
Really? You got to go.
It looks amazing.
You got to get a hurricane, okay?
Yeah.
It's gonna put you to sleep, but it's very good.
So you're there for a while, then you end up. Your next stop is in Colorado, which again, I've seen the pattern. This is what I'm talking about, with just being so well traveled. I'm almost envious. Like I've lived here almost my whole life, and then I lived in Florida. A lot of people, and we talked about this a little bit over dinner. You grew up in a place like, say, Buffalo, or it can be many, a million different cities, and you that's your life, and you don't really know anywhere else. And that's not always a bad thing. That's not what I'm saying. But to get an opportunity to just live in different places and experience different cultures, different weather, different things, and different people, to me is pretty damn cool. So anyway, so you go from Louisiana, now you're going to Colorado. How did the opportunity come about to go from Louisiana to Colorado Springs, right?
Yes. So for Louisiana, Colorado was different because that was the same company at that time. So it was kind of like I was taking a promotion, if you will. You saw a job and like, oh, I can stop doing. I was doing a little bit of news in Louisiana after football. Colorado, I would just be doing sports, and I'd be the weekend sports anchor. So it was like a promotion, if you will. So that's how that came about. And I enjoyed Colorado Springs because it's an hour from Denver. So you're really covering the Denver market. You just have to travel, just like Rochester does to here. It's the same thing. Like we are pretty much Denver Broncoed out over there. Wasn't that much fun because they weren't winning much when I was there. So it was a little different.
You came to Buffalo at the right time.
That's what I keep hearing. But yeah, no, I think for me, signing a 2-year contract, and then it just became like just part of life. It wasn't like this, oh, I just was ready. I knew what I wanted to do. So I'm like, this is what has to be done. And even my family like got adjusted to it. Me not coming home for the holidays because I'm at the bottom of the totem pole, requesting time off, like that. Like I think my family came to West Virginia my first Christmas by myself and saw the snow for the first time because they're from California.
I was gonna say the weather too. I'm talking about culture and food and people and stuff.
Yes.
The weather. So I'm growing up in California, then going to school in Atlanta, and then West Virginia. You talk. It snowed. That was your first snow. You definitely got some snow in Colorado too.
Buffalo wins with the weather. You guys win with the weather. This is the most challenging. This past winter was that was great. My first winter here was not great. But yeah, no, the weather is definitely an adjustment because I know going from West Virginia, right, helping out with football and being a little cold, needing a jacket, and then going to Louisiana and sweating for the first half of the season I'm in shorts at 9 at night because it's hot, and I'm interviewing winning coaches in shorts because that's just that different.
What's hotter weather though? California in the summer or Louisiana in the summer?
Oh, Louisiana, 100 because it's so humid. It's so humid.
That's how Florida was.
Yeah, I think it's similar to that.
I loved Florida, but man, oh man, the 3 to 4 months a year, the humidity is insufferable. It rains every day. They don't tell you this.
Hot rain, right?
When they sell you on Florida, yes, hot rain and crazy rain, and then it'll go away in 20 minutes. It's complete. Sunshine. It's insanity. So again, now you're in Colorado. Let's actually talk. Let's get to Buffalo here.
All right.
How did Briana Aldridge end up in Buffalo? How did the opportunity back in 2022 to come to this market come about? Take us inside that process a little bit.
It started with Matt Beauvais. I was actually kind of looking to go to a different market just because they had an opening. But the recruiter for the company was really good friends with the news director here at Channel 7. And she said, I thought it would be a good fit. I know him personally. She's like, so I just sent your tape just to see. And then Matt called me and we had a conversation. It felt like a very genuine conversation. I liked what they were trying to build here and the direction they were going. And he said the Bills were doing great and the Sabres will soon be doing great, I think is what he told me.
Yeah, he lied to you.
I think I made the right choice. So I kind of pivoted and just kind of went with my gut. And
well, I was going to ask you if it was a difficult decision, but it doesn't seem like it was a difficult decision. And you've kind of like throughout your career now been making these decisions. You know, somebody who might be somewhere, maybe they enjoy it or maybe they're stuck somewhere for 10, 15, 20 years.
Right.
I would imagine going to any market would be a tough decision. No matter how good the money is, no matter how good the weather might be, all that stuff. When you're somewhere for that long, it might be. But for you, this was a pretty relatively easy decision.
I think so. The hardest part was leaving my mom, I think, because so far away. We're looking at the flights and there's nothing direct, right? And Buffalo's a small airport, and you know how it is to travel out of this airport. That was probably the hardest thing. And Colorado was nice because I wasn't so far when it came to that. It was easy to go home for a weekend. That's not the case here. I need like 4 days off, 5 days off, just to travel one day alone. But I think that was the hardest choice. But she knew, again, she knows what I'm trying to do. This is a great sports town. You don't have to be here that long to figure that out. And I think this is where I'm supposed to be. So, yeah.
You bring up a great point, too. You know, it's kind of like how I felt about Florida. It's okay to leave, but you don't want to be too far from home either. You know, I said, like, it was easier for you to get home. Now, it's a lot harder there. That's the downside. Obviously, there's a lot of upside as well. All right, so you come to Buffalo, you know, like I said, in 2022. What were like your first impressions of the city? And again, now I'm asking somebody who's seen a lot, somebody who's been around. So you got a lot of places to compare this to, obviously. Like, what were your first initial impressions of Buffalo?
I think when I first got here, one, I'm thankful I took advice and I got here and didn't work the first couple of weeks. I just got to see this. And it was June, so it was beautiful when I moved here, and I got spoiled with the rooftops. And I had a friend from Channel 2 at the time showing me around because she had been here for a couple seasons. And I just thought, well, I was like, well, they like wings and they like blue cheese a lot. I got that. But I thought it was,
We're one and the same. We'll keep that between us.
Yeah, we don't want to get, I don't want to start a war on this thing. But no, I thought it was also from Colorado Springs, not Denver, but from Springs. I thought this was more of a diverse place to live as well, which I enjoyed because I kind of feel like I lost that going to Colorado Springs.
Sure.
That was something, I think when I took the job, I didn't realize that till I got there. But in meeting everyone at camp, which I think was my second week here, super welcoming, men and women. I think that was okay, I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Live here at Imperial Pizza in South Buffalo. I'm with Briana Aldridge. All right, so you're in Buffalo now. You got the job. You've getting to know the city a little bit. Talk about starting to like cultivate some relationships with your colleagues, your peers, whether it's at the station, whether it's with other Buffalo Bills, media members. We talked about this a little bit over dinner here at Imperial. This market, for the most part, is kind of a tight-knit group, the media people. Like they spend a lot of time together. They're very nice together. Like I've said, I told you this over dinner. I'll say it on the air too. There's people out there that will actually accuse them of being too chummy. I don't buy that. People can still do their job effectively, consider it a competition, but still be cool with the other, you know, with the competition. And in some cases, maybe even help a little bit. But talk about kind of building relationships with them to some extent. Now, I will say this too, as a nugget. You're not just, again, you aren't just somebody who, you know, you get the camera in front of you, the microphone, and do the sports, and that's it. There's other layers to your life. You're educating your teachers too. So you're a very busy person, but just kind of, like I said, cultivating the relationships with some of these people that you've gotten to know a little bit here in the Buffalo Bills media.
Yeah. Like I said, everyone, no matter what channel has been very welcoming. From no matter what they're from the Sabres, from the Bills, which is normally where I'm at majority of the time. But even the faces and like photographers that I see, they'll come and say hi first, which I think is like different than any other market I've come from. They'll ask me how my family's doing, things like that. And I do think this knit of a group puts a little more effort into like hanging out outside of like just like work stuff or like just after work. Like we support each other when there's certain events and things like that, which is kind of nice. I've never known this much about my coworkers' personal lives, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And I think that's a good thing because I can, hey, how's this person, or how's, you know, this going on, or how was your weekend, and just chat it up. So thankful for that for sure.
Well, I'll tell you this, and I'm being honest with you. I'm not lying. I'm not bullshitting you here while we're on the air. I have talked to, because again, this was literally our first time meeting each other, just maybe an hour or so ago before started doing this podcast. So I passed around about you, man. I talked to a couple people, Matt Marino, Tim, Sal, and they love you. They think you're a really good asset to this community. And I'm being dead serious. Like, I would throw them under the bus if they said something wrong.
I appreciate that.
I wouldn't hesitate to throw Matt or Sal under the bus. But those are my guys. They've been extremely complimentary about you. Let me ask you this too. I'm sticking with the job. Like, what do you consider? You've been doing this, and you've been at it for a while now. You know, you're a veteran now. What's the most fun part about getting up in the morning and doing this for a living? And also, conversely, what do you consider to be like the biggest challenges of doing this?
I think the best part of the job for me, for someone who hates sitting at a desk, is you never know what the day is going to bring.
Sure.
Sometimes I'm shooting something in a different city and they're like, hey, the Bills just signed such and such. I'm like, oh, there goes everything I just did, right? I think that's the fun part, because who wants to do the same thing every day? I personally don't. So this works for me, but also I think that same thing can also be a challenge at the same time, because when do you get that structure in your life? Or if you're just, you didn't sleep the night before, you're coming back from Christmas, and then all this things are happening. So I think the job it's like a little love-hate, and I think most journalists go through that. And I have so many friends in this business who have that moment where they're like, can I do something else? They leave and they're like, I can't do nothing else. So that's what I mean with that love-hate relationship, is we need the job and the job needs us kind of thing. I could not see myself doing something else without this always being some part of my life.
In Buffalo, I don't know if you've heard this during your time here, but a saying in Buffalo is, if you don't like the weather, wait 20 minutes. I don't know if you've ever heard that.
I haven't, but it makes sense.
You're hearing it now. And it's starting to make a little bit of sense, because doesn't it not feel like it's dropped about 10 to 12 degrees? A little bit.
The sweater is saving me. Yeah. We had sun, now we don't. But
when you cover an NFL team, okay, so you're covering the Buffalo Bills, you have to be objective. Of course, you got to be objective.
Right.
You know, you can't approach it as a fan. Whether you grew up a fan of the team, whether you are a fan of the team or not, the job requires you to be objective and unbiased, obviously. That said, though, is it better for you, in your experience, what's a professional team, high school, college, whatever it may be, when you're covering a team, that team is good, if for no other reason, then maybe the players are more likely to want to open up a little more and talk, and just overall be in a better mood. You know, you got to deal with these people all the time, and if they're losing all the time, like Xavier coming to Sabres every day, you know, some of those guys get in really shitty moods, but who can blame them? They've been losing for 13 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like with the Bills, you know, they've been winning. You're covering a winning football team. Does that matter to you? Or is it, again, I know it's part of the job. Like, you got to go do your work. Even if they lose 10 in a row, you got to do your work. But do you feel like covering a team that's better, it just makes the job, maybe even your professional life, a little bit easier?
I'll say yes, because I mean, like you said, you don't get to pick and choose how the team is doing. You don't get to really pick and choose. But I've covered a team that didn't win much, who's been in a playoff drought for a very long time, and then came where the peak of the Bills, right? And it does make it more fun. And even when they lose a game, it's not fun going in the locker room and, you know, no one wants that. I don't want that for me. It's part of the job. Yeah. But I will say I kind of had like this epiphany moment. Last week, I was doing a quick interview with AJF Vanessa, and I just felt like we were literally just having a conversation, because when you start to see these people, like people, not athletes, it changes the game. And I haven't covered a team for 3 seasons. I'm always gone by now.
Right.
I do too. Like, you know, that's the business. So, or my business, until I'm figuring out what's next. But I'm like, wow, this is kind of nice. And I see why people stay, because the Bills is one organization I can say from the top to the bottom. You know, I've never have a GM just like, hey, how you doing? Like, this is different. So I can see why people stay. And I know most of the people in the room are from here and grew up with the team, but they make it very easy for those of us who haven't as well.
You start to build professional, little bit of personal relationships with some of the players that you're around all the time. You know, in some cases you learn a little bit about them, maybe some of their life off the field and stuff as well. So they kind of, maybe that humanizes them
Yeah, I think so. It's different.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Who are a few of your, whether it was in high school, college, earlier in your career, who are a few of like your biggest influences for what you're doing today? Whether it's broadcast, teaching, whatever it may be, like who are a couple of your biggest influences?
Well, for me, it's always been, it's not like this celebrity or an athlete or someone I saw on TV. My mom has always been that person for me. A lot of people don't know that my mom had me in high school. And I said that I'm a first generation graduate. That's not possible without her helping me figure out and getting there. And you should have saw her face when I told her I want to get my PhD. She's like, who's going to pay for it? That was it. She's like, I was like, I'm going to do it on my own. You got me this far. I promise. But I know like I have so many friends who are struggling to like pay their undergrad loans. And I never had to worry about those things. And that's why I am able to, get in a little debt now for my PhD, because she kind of set that path for me. And she's always been in my corner. I could tell her I want to be a pop singer tomorrow. She's probably going to be making mixtapes with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's nice. It's very nice to have. And it's not anyone I've seen on TV. It's just someone who's been there for me. And I grew up with.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You know what I wanted to ask you earlier and I forgot to, during your stops on your way to Buffalo, where were you when COVID came? Like what market were you
Louisiana.
in? Louisiana?
The very beginning. And they threw me in news for 3 months because there was no sports to cover. Well, there was a little bit and we started to get creative, like going to like do drills with coaches and just being more like fun, interactive. But because I was they call it like the third person in the department, I kind of got like last dibs. So I had to like become a news reporter. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just packed all my bags to come here and do news. But thankfully it only lasted for about 3 months. And then it got back into the swing. At least in Louisiana, they figured out a way to play. I promise you, they figured out a way to play.
COVID was over in Florida in about 2.5 weeks.
It was very different than going. Yes,
COVID was not
so
over.
You understand.
COVID was not over in New York for quite a while. COVID, that shit was done. Yeah. Like maybe 3.5 weeks into it. But I've always, look, COVID sucked for everybody, obviously. No matter what you did for a living, some people lost their jobs for good or whatever. But I've always wondered about that, like doing your job, like what you do, how much harder that must have been. And it was, again, COVID's hard for everybody, so no woe is me. Yeah, that's not what we're looking for here. But just the challenges that came with being able to do what you do during that time.
I would say it took like first month, it took like a kink, maybe first 3 weeks, because like I had to literally have an engineer come and set up kind of what we have here. So I could be able to I was doing broadcast from my couch, like that you could see my living room. My dog would be doing zoomies and stuff in the background. But then I got used to it. And I was like, we can kind of do this from our house.
Yeah.
Because I would set up a story. I'd go out, have my mask on, go shoot it. And then go back to the house, edit, and do a stand-up from my living room and put it together. We were making it work. And I was like, wow, it's like once we got the technology kinks out, I don't think it was too bad. And even that transition back into the buildings, half of us went, half of us didn't. They had us in the studio and I was literally still working from home, which, it has its perks of working from home.
You just made me remember that I had Matt Beauvais on during COVID when he was at home. I've also had Matt here at Imperial on this patio. In fact, in this young time, you're way more interesting to talk to than Matt Beauvais. Sorry, Matt, but I'm just spitting facts here, Matt Beauvais. Sorry, buddy. Couple more things that we'll get out here, but I wanted to get your take on social media because to me, this is a very polarizing topic. On one hand, especially with what you do, I'm talking about the sports part of your life. Your story, you put something out, it gets out there instantly. You can connect with people instantly. You find out news like quite literally in real time. There's a lot of great things about social media. I'm talking more specifically Twitter X, but we can include all social media. But on the other hand, it could just be an absolutely dirty cesspool. You know what I mean? With people, with trolls, people who they wake up in the morning and their goal is to incite a reaction from you, from Sal, from Matt, from whoever it may be, because they know that they can get under your skin, at least some cases, get under some people's skin. So there's a lot of ugliness to social media as well. Like, how do you balance using it to your advantage and, taking the good out of it and kind of doing your best to to eliminate as much of the bad stuff as possible, and especially in someone like cases like yours. I mean, I'm sure there's some idiots trying to slide in your DMs and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But like, just talk about like, what's your stance? What's your take right now, like on social media?
I think whoever, to be honest, I'm terrible with messages in any way from Facebook and Twitter. I feel like if someone has my contact or needs to reach me professionally, they'll do it through email, and that's what I check daily. I don't really entertain it. Like, I know sometimes the guys will be like, did you see that crazy comment? And I'll be like, no, what did it say? Because I don't even entertain it. I think the only time that it actually comes across my mind or I see it is if we're doing something like this and they're commenting. And it's going to be the women don't know football, and it's just kind of like, it's those kind of comments. And I'm like, it's 2024. I think women are proving that they know football. And I always joke a lot of the times when I'm in a room and it's a man having something to say, which is not a lot. Like, I'm talking about like 5% of a jerk or so that I'm in a room with. But I have to always remind them, like, what college did you play for? Or like, where did you play? It's normally nowhere. And I'm normally the most athletic one in the room. And I thrive off that. And that's probably like my go-to. But I don't, being a woman in sports, being a Black woman in sport, you have to have thick skin. And I think I'm in a place, like you said, you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of women in the Buffalo market right now.
Time to come up.
And it's nice to just be around them and see it. And they kind of are my little pieces of inspiration. And we're gonna start outnumbering some people. So,
I hope so.
So I'm really okay. But like you said, social media it can be an ugly place. It's a beautiful thing when positive things are being spread. And I've gotten to tell amazing stories just by what I've been able to find on social media. So I think I try to use it for what it's, I think, in the positive light. And there's always going to be that 5% that are probably just don't have much to do.
Well, good on you, because I've gotten to know a lot of people in media, especially sports media. And I tell them this all the time. I'm like, and I'm guilty of it as well, but not nowhere near on the level that some of them are. Their worst, their toxic trait is they allow themselves to get dirty in the mud with people who just want to get in the mud and get dirty, and they shouldn't be wanting to bother getting dirty with them, and they get dragged into these interactions with people that it's just not worth their time. So I'm glad to hear that that's not something that you get involved with pretty often.
You know, my favorite response is when I get like a really bad one is thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching.
Yeah, someone taught me that. Love that.
You've been so again, you've been here for a while now. You've gotten to know the city relatively well, and you're still getting to know it, of course, every day. What are a couple like your favorite like spots? Like, what are a couple of, you said you're a foodie.
Yeah.
How about that? Like, what are a couple of your favorite spots to hit up here in Buffalo?
So every time my friends or my mom comes in town, Matt always makes me a list of places that I need to take them. Because he's like, oh, that's not the authentic. You got to take them here. There was, what's probably my favorite place? That's so hard. So when I lived downtown, I used to be at Tapo all the time by myself at the bar. Yeah. I love the vibe there on like a Friday night or Saturday. I just went where I could walk places. Where else did I like to go when I was downtown? I told you about a spot. I can't even remember the name. Right off the border. It's a Italian spot. They have a Chinese spot, and then there's Italian. Yeah. Oh, I forgot too. I think it starts with a V. It's so good. The service is a little bit slow, but it's right on the water, and it's the view will make you forget that your food's coming out a little slow, but it's so good. And then I just tried a new spot, Angeline's. That's really good. It's brand new. Is that in? That's still in the East Rome? It might be downtown Elmwood. Oh, okay. No, yeah. I haven't. It's pretty new. So, yeah, I'm always down to try new places though. So that's my thing. I'm almost afraid to ask you this question because again, you're so busy between this job and between being a teacher. But like, what are a couple of your away from work hobbies? Like, if you ain't doing no work today, you're off tonight or this weekend, I should say. You're off this weekend. You got nothing to do. Nothing to do. Like what's your vibe? Like what are some things that you enjoy doing when you're not, stuck working all the time? So me and my friends, or even if I'm by myself, my favorite thing to do is to go to a spa. That's my favorite thing to do. Pamper yourself. Treat yourself. It's just nice. Yeah, sitting in the sauna, getting a nice facial. I'm getting one on Saturday, actually. I'm very excited about it. Yeah, self-care. That's what I like to do. Nothing wrong with that.
And we're going to, before we get out of here, every time I have a first-time guest on, and of course, Bree's obviously a first-time guest, I like to do a fun fact finale. And then we talked a lot about your life, you know, your career to this point, some of the things you like and whatnot. This is going to be one more opportunity for people to get to know a little bit more about you. These are kind of, I don't want to say rapid fire questions, but these aren't like deep thought, you know.
All right.
We're not going to take an hour to answer these. Kind of like whatever the first thing that might pop in your head, that'll be your answer. And so I don't forget, because I always ask the same ones. I want to make sure I wrote these down here in my little notes. Your favorite all-time athlete?
Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds.
That's how it started for me.
Okay. Your go-to late night snack?
Watermelon.
Yeah?
In season.
Okay. Your favorite place? And again, you've been to a lot of places. Your favorite place that you visited, whether it's somewhere you lived, whether it's a town close to where you lived, a vacation, your favorite place that you've ever visited?
New Orleans.
New Orleans?
Love New Orleans.
God, I got to go there.
You have to. It's amazing.
Who is your first celebrity crush that you can remember?
You're going to laugh. You know Shamar Moore is?
Yeah.
He
was on, oh my God, what's that drama that he used to watch? He was on Criminal Minds?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the one. That's how he got me.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
By the way, I love that show when it was on.
Great show. Yeah.
It still might be on. It might be like season 74 or something like that.
Probably. It's like Law and
feels
Order.
like it's been on forever.
Away. Yeah.
This has been an episode pretty much full of fun facts. We've learned a lot about you, but give everybody out there a fun fact about you that maybe some people who might even know you a little bit that they don't know.
So I like to throw Matt off when I say like, he says, I speak Mexican. That's what he says. So I'm half Mexican and I'm half Black. So I understand a lot of Spanish more than the average person in Buffalo would. So it throws them off. So I think a lot of people, if I say something in Spanish, they'll be like, they wouldn't expect that.
Okay. I would have expected that either.
Same.
Okay. There you go. What movie have you rewatched probably more than any movie?
Save the Last Dance. I know all the words.
That's with oh God, I know I've seen that movie. What's the actress's name?
It's
Julia
like
Stiles.
Yeah,
Julia
that
Stiles.
sounds right.
That's a great movie.
It was not great acting, but it was a great movie. Yeah.
Call yourself out. Is there a dog barking by the way here on live TV? All right. Anyway,
we're safe.
All right, we're safe now. Call yourself out. What's a bad habit that you have?
Oh my gosh, that's easy. I do laundry and I let it sit there for a long time until if I have guests or I know someone's coming over, then I'll tidy up. But I will I can think about the laundry sitting at my house right now. Wait, I'll wash it, but I won't fold it.
All right, 3 more here. Let's just say, all right, so we wrap up this podcast, finish our wings, and let's just say at Imperial Pizza tonight, they got karaoke going on. All right. And in this world right now, karaoke, they had a drink or whatever. And I'm like, you know what, Briana, why don't you get up there? Sing us a song. What is a song that if you were to go up there, whether you can actually sing it or not, at least in your own mind, that you might be able to nail? It could be something that might get the crowd into it. It could be a slow jam. It could be whatever you want to be. Something that if you were to do karaoke, I don't know if you do or not, but if you were to, what's a song that you would want to sing, like you would enjoy? Okay,
I don't know if this crowd would know, but it's TLC, and it would be No Scrubs. I know every word to that song.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I love TLC.
Yes.
Ooh,
I knew TLC. I liked you.
What about your friends? Ain't Too Proud to Beg. I'd go on and on.
Yes.
TLC for days and days and days. All right, just for fun here.
Okay.
Well, maybe it wouldn't be fun for you, though. Let's just say being on TV, one working. All right? Let's say being a teacher, one working either. All right.
Okay.
And you got to kind of repivot here. And you're like, what do you think you might want to do with your life if you had to completely repivot? Which, by the way, you don't. And I hope you never do.
Don't pivot.
Nor should you have to. But just in this fun or not fun scenario, like what is something else that you could potentially see yourself doing?
I would probably say I would be a lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like everything about that. My dad was in law enforcement, so I used to like hearing about the cases and stuff. So yeah.
What kind of lawyer though? Would you be a defense attorney? Would you be a prosecutor?
Of course, I would do where there's no money. I'd probably be a prosecutor. Yeah. Because
I totally could see you being a good lawyer. You would be great at arguing in front of a judge or in front of a jury for sure.
I would put a lot of people away for things that they did wrong. Yes.
All right. Last question here. And I ask this one all the time. This one can be but I got to ask it.
Okay.
So you could have 3 dinner guests at your house. You're going back to your apartment. You know people are coming. So you did your laundry or you did your laundry because you know people are coming.
Okay.
All right. You got to have any 3 people in the world. dead or alive. Come to your house
Ooh.
tonight, have a bite to eat, maybe a glass of wine or whatever the drink of choice is for you guys. Who's the 3?
Beyonce.
Okay.
I think she's a phenomenal human being.
She'd be fun to hear from too, I think, in
Yeah.
like a casual kind of table setting.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Okay. I would say LeBron James.
Okay.
I heard he's like a phenomenal person as well. Never Laker fan, but him fan.
LeBron or Michael Jordan? Not in terms of who you want at your table. Who's the best? Gotta ask you that.
Out of the, I feel like maybe MJ. I feel like he could spit some real knowledge to me. Because who's living better than MJ right now?
Nobody.
Yeah, so that's maybe it's Beyonce, LeBron, and MJ. That's a dynamic there, huh?
I like it. I like it a lot. All right, and that's going to do it. By the way, we're one more time here live. Big thank you to Imperial Pizza. Still some wings literally standing right in front of me that I'm about to get after. Make sure Bree gets some pizza to take home with her too. I'm telling you, when you get no pizza, the pizza here in Imperial is the best. But anyway, Patrick Moran. Make sure you follow Bree on Twitter at Bree, 2 E's, Aldridge. Appreciate you. This was a lot of fun. You are well, obviously you're a good talker. You're on TV, of course, but very easy to talk to. Very natural. This felt like really organic. Honestly, I feel like I know you. And I only met you an hour and a half ago.
Yeah, it's because you fed me, so I was nicer. Yeah, you knew the way to my heart.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching, for listening. Be back with brand new episodes next week.